Hello and welcome to Inside Sports Talk on this beautiful Saturday. Ed Cole is here with me, my amazing co-host as always. How are you today, Ed?
Sister Joanna, good morning. Happy Saturday. Happy Juneteenth to you.
Juneteenth, yes it is. National holiday.
Yeah, very historic day. I'm glad that President Biden signed that bill into law. So we have our first national holiday since MLK Day was enacted in 1983. So we haven't had one in 38 years. Historic,
Yes,
very historic.
very, very historic. Being celebrated throughout, and all the social media has been going off with that and that celebration, which is long overdue, in my opinion.
Yes, I think it's wonderful. We've been celebrating that as African Americans for years and years and years and decades, but now the country finally recognizes it as a national holiday, which is awesome. It's great, and now we can look forward to celebrating that every single June
Yes,
19th.
indeed. June 19th, yes. Um, but how about those playoffs, Ed?
How
We
about those
have
playoffs?
the NBA playoffs have been sure something this, I don't know, just this whole playoff season. So we have, we'll be talking a little bit about that playoffs, road to the finals, the Clippers advancing to the Western Conference to face the Phoenix Suns. We'll dive into a little bit of the Eastern Conference Finals, which those two matchups there are going to Game 7, have gone to Game 7. Very pivotal moment there for all those four teams. We'll dive into that, and I have to talk a little bit about MLB, of course, with the use of foreign substances and that crackdown. And then with my beloved Diamondbacks, we'll talk about the situation there and
Ooh.
what's happening with their losing streak, and we'll get more into that towards the end of the segment. So, are you ready to go ahead and kick this off? It is a lot to cover today.
Yeah, we got a whole lot to talk about in an hour. So let's start off with the NBA playoffs. As you mentioned, just some incredible games, incredible series that's coming down to the conference finals. Let's jump into it, Joe.
Yes, of course. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit with the Clippers advancing to the Western Conference Finals and kick it off with that, as they are the closest right now in that road to the finals, as they will be facing the Phoenix Suns here on Sunday, tomorrow at 1 o'clock. That game is set. And I want to go ahead and just go back to yesterday's game, last night's game on Friday night. I just could not bear to watch how the Utah Jazz just crumbled apart and lost that 25-point lead. And the Clippers just took advantage of that in every single way that they could, and they did not look back.
No, they did not. That was an absolute destruction in the second half, an epic collapse of epic proportions. The Clippers outscored the Jazz 81-47 in the second half, Joanna. Unbelievable. Ever since that 25-point lead, Terrence Mann took over. He scored 25 of his 39 in the second half, and playoff P. Paul George had another fantastic game. Reggie Jackson stepped up huge for the Clippers last night, and I felt so bad for Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz, Quinn Snyder, everybody on that team, that they held that 25-point lead, Joanna, and could not hold that. And Spider played his heart out last night with his bum ankle, everything going on with him physically, Joanna. We saw him toward the end. He fell down, took a hard tumble, kind of twisted, tucked his right leg under, and he was in excruciating pain. Still got up, hit free throws, but I felt so bad for that young man. He gave everything: 39 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, but it wasn't enough as the Jazz could not hold that lead, and they lost 4 straight in the series, Joanna, and now they're out. The team with the best record in the NBA is out. The Clippers move on, as you mentioned, to take on the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals starting tomorrow afternoon.
Yes, the number one seed in the Western Conference has been taken down.
In the entire
Um,
league,
well,
record
and
wise.
then yeah, Western Conference, and then yes,
Yes.
going into that in the entire league. So they're supposed to be the best team, and they just weren't this series. They were just not had enough to be the best. So, but with that, also the Clippers, they end their drought after 50 years. It was, it was a long time in the making. They are
Mm-hmm.
finally in the first Western Conference Finals. We have Ty Lue, who, if we remember, and I, forgot this for a moment, he was also the one responsible to bring Cleveland into their phenomenal time when they went into the finals and their playoff momentum that they had there for a moment. And
Yes.
now it's his
Mm-hmm.
turn once again, ending that 50-year drought um, for the LA Clippers. So this is he's just some type of a coach. I would just have to say, not anyone does that, and let alone once, make that 2 times in your
Mm-hmm.
career.
And it didn't look really good, Joanna, when it started off in the Mavericks series when they were down 2-0, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on with the Clippers? They have all this talent in the world, but they're down 2-0 against Dallas. They lost the first 2 games at home, and you're like, okay, what is going on with these guys? Then they rip off 4 straight. Then they take it to 7 games. They win that series, and then of course they win 4 straight from Utah. So they're the first team to ever have 2-0, 2 consecutive 2-0 series deficits in the playoffs to come back to win. So they are the cardiac Clippers, if you want to call them that. But wow, I'm just looking at these stats from last night, Joanna. In the second half, LA shot 30 of 42. They hit 74% of their 3-point shots in the second half, and Utah just folded. They couldn't hit a shot, Joe. They shot 38.5%, 39% from the field. They turned the ball over 10 times. And what was telling to me, outside of all these numbers, the Clippers turned the ball over once in the second half. That showed me they played smart basketball, and they were not going to be denied last night. That second half was incredible. I'm like, what in the world is going on? When they were up 25, Utah, I was texting you like, well, I guess we're getting ready for a game 7. Guess I was wrong.
Yeah, I think many of us were wrong, because as soon as we saw that huge lead, we all thought, okay, well, this isn't Utah's pocket. They've got this. We're going to see a game 7, which a lot of us, for reasons known, with Chris Paul being out indefinitely from the Suns, and once they go ahead and kick off the Western Conference Finals, in which now we know it's going to be the Clippers, we wanted that game 7 to give them a little bit more time. 2 extra days, 3 extra days, can make a difference. But nonetheless, they just the Clippers just were able to go ahead and dominate on the Utah Jazz, and have to keep in mind that maybe this was a little bit of a blessing in disguise for man, because Kawhi Leonard's out, so he became that man more, and more so yesterday, to bring the Clippers to the victory.
Yes, and those are the numbers that Terrence put up last night. The 39 points. Let me pull up the entire box score. He had 39 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. Those are numbers that Kawhi can put up on a nightly basis. So they needed to have a Kawhi type performance from a man like Terrence Mann. In his second season, he scored 25 points in the entire series, Joanna, coming into game 6, and he explodes for 39 points. I believe 20 of them he had in the third quarter. Just an incredible performance for that young man. And he was great on the defensive end as well. So it wasn't all just scoring. He was not scared to take it to Rudy Gobert, the defensive player of the year last night. I believe he scored 30 of his 39 points in that paint area last night. So Terrence was dominating, and that really helped out Paul George and Reggie Jackson and everybody else on the team, that they were able to rely on somebody else other than playoff P.
Yes, and indeed, and we were definitely able to see that. So now that we know it's the Clippers versus the Suns. So what type of Clippers team is it that we're going to get to see go against the Suns? Because we've had this conversation previously, Ed.
Yes.
We've seen the different type of team, the different Clippers that can come out on that court throughout the season and throughout the playoffs. So are we going to get to see the Clippers that we saw last night against the Utah Jazz? Or are we going to go see not a so well put together team? Or is it something that's going to be non-consistent, which is one other thing that we've mentioned in the past with the Clippers? You don't know what team you're going to get, and it's going to be wait and see what happens that game, and what who comes out.
Yeah, I think last night was a microcosm of the Los Angeles Clippers. What are you going to see, Joanna, as you mentioned? Are you going to see the team that got blown out by 20 points in the second quarter when Jordan Clarkson scored all 21 of his points in that quarter and they were down 25 points? Or are you going to see a team like you saw in the entire second half of that game last night when they just blew the doors off Staples Center and blew the Utah Jazz right out of the water? We'll find out tomorrow afternoon in game one. And if I believe it's going to be a really good series because the Clippers are deep. They've got some really solid athletes there, and it would be great to have Kawhi back. We'll see what happens with him and his health situation, and it'll also be great to have CP back. I know the Suns are going to give an update sometime today on Chris Paul's status, whether he is cleared to play in game one, whether he passed his 2 COVID tests and he's cleared and able to play in game one. If not, we'll see what happens. If he doesn't get cleared for game one, hopefully he's ready for game 2 on Tuesday night, as we now know the schedule of when the Clippers and the Suns are going to play. Game 1 again Sunday at 12:30 our time, 3:30 Eastern. Game 2 is 9 o'clock Eastern and 6 o'clock our time here in Arizona. So the first 2 games in Phoenix, we know the entire 7-game series, but we're worried about the first 2 games before we go to LA again.
Yes. And the good thing about this is that the Suns will go ahead and will be remaining with their home court advantage through the transgression of the West, the playoffs, which is right now the Western Conference Finals, which remain to go ahead and secure a spot to the finals. And, that has been an advantage to the Phoenix Suns throughout the playoffs, having that home court advantage. So I think that will be another plus, and having them, go through the series against the Clippers and have that, having that advantage, and they can secure a NBA final spot.
Yes. So here's the 7-game series. So Sunday, of course, game 1 here at Phoenix Suns Arena. Tuesday is game 2 back at Phoenix Suns Arena. Next Thursday is in Los Angeles. Next Saturday is Los Angeles game 4. And then if necessary, game 5 will be back here Monday, June 28th in Phoenix, and on and so forth. But that schedule was set. One of the keys for me for the Suns is stopping playoff P. In the 3 games they played this season, Paul George scored 97 points in those 3 games. So he's averaging a little under 33 points a game this season against the Phoenix Suns. So whether Kawhi's back or not, the main concern has to be stopping number 13, because if not, playoff P can just go off as he knows he's able to do against the Suns. But I think the Suns are locked in defensively, Joanna. Are they not in these playoffs? We've seen what they did in those 4 games against Denver, and in that second half of that series against the Lakers, when they just blew them out of the water. They're playing on a defensive level that I haven't seen the Suns play in a long time, since Monty Williams got here and he's implemented that kind of style. And James Jones, we know he was like that when he won his 3 championships. He was a defensive minded guy too when he played. So this toughness defensively is going to be, I would think it'd be a problem for the Clippers.
Yeah, I think that, you said it, the Suns are locked down there in that defense. So that's something that they have been working with and has gotten better, especially after that Lakers series that we saw, which they did struggle with at that beginning. But yeah, the only thing that I do think about, and is it much of a concern, or should we be even concerned about, is having so much time off between games from one series to the next. So we've seen it. Sometimes it can be a plus with having some rest and having some time off. You can, recover your bodies and come back and fresh. But sometimes that can also be a negative effect into where you just don't have your bodies going and as active, and just so much happens with that, and then you kind of don't continue that momentum as well. So is that something that we have to worry about as we get ready to see the Suns and the Clippers kick off this Western Conference Finals on Sunday, which is tomorrow?
It very well could be a concern. It's a two-edged thing when you're talking about having that kind of time off. It's great because the guys can get back and get rested and kind of take a mental break from this rush they had against the Lakers, and then those 4 games against the Denver Nuggets, where, everything is just coming at them left and right, and they're on this 7-game winning streak, and they're on this high, and then they have some time to kind of sit back and, okay, so we've been through this. Now we've got to get ready for the Western Conference Finals. But like you said, at the same time, that momentum is kind of, has it dissipated because they haven't played in a long time? But I would think that these are grown men. They're professional athletes. This is what they do for a living, and they get paid very well to do this. I don't think Monty Williams or Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, everybody on this team, you can name everybody on the roster. I don't think they're going to fall off mentally when they get prepared for game one tomorrow. I think they're still going to be locked in and come out. It may be a little bit of a lull in the initial stages as they're kind of getting back to, oh yeah, we're back to playing basketball again because we had this break. But I don't think it will take them that much long to get, bam, we're ready to go. Okay, game one. The crowd's going to be there. It's going to be a full house. It's going to be a maniacal situation. You were at one of the playoffs games. You know how crazy it was inside that arena with a full house of 16,000 plus people. Joe, how crazy was that? You went to what game? What Lakers game was that you went to?
It was actually the Nuggets, the game one.
Oh, it was game one.
It was game one of the Nuggets and the Suns. Yeah, kicking off that series.
How ridiculous was that?
Just even thinking about it, like right now, if you can just see my skin, I'm just getting like, goosebumps all over. Just going back and remembering that. But yeah, like it was just that place, like the roof was gonna come off. And you can just, we heard it on national TV, on different sports network channels and outlets and so forth, that that energy, you can feel it, and it was feeding off through the TV. So no, that momentum, I don't believe that has gone away, even with the Suns taking this much time off, and with Chris Paul, CP3 right now being out, and we don't know what his return is going to be. We know that he is expected to miss some of the Western Conference final games. Maybe hopefully it's only one or two and no more than that. But the fans are hyped. You can still feel it. And like yesterday, because I was doing some posting on social media after the review of who was going to be facing the Phoenix Suns, and it's just like my phone was just going off. Everyone's just excited to see this, and for the Suns to hopefully, fingers crossed, can finally they'll finally be able to make it to the finals in almost 30 years.
For the first time in about 28 years. 28 years, almost 30 years, yes.
Almost 30 years. So it's been a very, very long time since that's happened. I was a little kid, little chitlin running around, but but I do remember that was a little one. But yeah, like you can just feel the energy in here and throughout the valley, which is amazing, and something you haven't really felt in a very, very long time. And it's feeding off, spewing out of our pores.
Yes. Tomorrow afternoon is going to be absolutely insane downtown. This entire city, this entire state is ready for this. And if they I know we talked about it last night. They're 8 wins away from a world title. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it's hard to not think that, Joanna. They are this close to their first championship ever. I know. It's how can we not think that?
I know. It's hard not to think it and to be so excited. I'm just still because we know how our hearts can be easily heartbroken when it comes to pivotal moments and like this. So, but just taking it right now, I think one of the things that the Suns need to focus on, instead of trying, like you said, getting ahead, focusing that one game at a time, which is they have been doing and has been working well for them. Yeah. One game at a time, and then go on to the next. One moment at a time. One play at a time.
One play at a time, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because you can't play all 7. You can't win all 4 games in one. You've got to get past game one. Get past tomorrow afternoon. I know that they'll have some butterflies. Of course, they're like, oh my gosh, Western Conference Finals. This place is crazy. We're on national television.
I have them.
Yes, you have them. I have them. I know the players are going to have them. But then once they get settled and they just block all that stuff out and they just know, okay, it's time to go to work. And then we'll see what kind of Phoenix Suns team will have in this 7-game series against the Clippers. This should be a great series. We know the Clippers love to shoot 3-pointers. They took 39 last night. So it's going to be critical that, hopefully they can defend against the 3 because, Terrence Mann took 10 last night. Nicholas Batum took 6. Paul George, PG took 5. Reggie Jackson took 7. Pat Bev took 4. So this is a team that loves to throw up the 3-pointers. And if they're successful with their 3-pointers, it's going to be a series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we both know that each of these teams like to throw those 3-pointers. It's going to be raining
Yes.
threes, I think, throughout the series. Hopefully my brain is going to baseball right now. Sorry, the Suns can go ahead and capitalize on that, and they can go ahead and block off the Clippers on that.
And Joe, to counter that, yes, they do. Both teams do love to shoot the three, but still, do not go away from DeAndre Ayton and what he's been able to do in his first 2 playoff series. Give the ball to that young man and let him make plays happen down low. Do not go away from the big fella, because DeAndre he's exponentially grown in front of our eyes in these 2 series. And my gosh, feed the big fella.
Yes, so we're finally being able to see who he is as a player and what he oh my gosh, I use your words. What we knew he was capable of doing, and this is his moment to shine, and he's capitalizing on it for sure. And let's use him and continue doing that.
Yeah, I'm so proud of that young man for what he's been able to withstand. I know his the first couple of years of his career has been kind of rocky, with so many people, so many naysayers saying, why did you pick him over Luka? Why did you do that? So now you're seeing why he was selected, because he is the fruits are really bearing right now off of that tree, off the DeAndre Ayton tree.
Definitely. But he's not the only one who's on the spotlight, Ed. We have also our beloved Devin Booker, who has committed to the Team USA Tokyo Olympics.
Yes.
How
that is so cool.
Is that? After,
so awesome.
He's not getting the recognition as we, really spoken about previously, and the type of player that he is, how he goes out and just who he is immensely all the way around, not getting that recognition. Now he's finally getting, because he got left off as an all-star. He was in the reserves, but he deserved to be on that all-star all-star starting.
Oh, absolutely.
But we can go ahead and keep going down that lane, but we won't. But this is amazing. He's being acknowledged, and he's being honored with the trip to the Tokyo Olympics. And this is amazing to see.
This is crazy. So Devin, yes, he committed to the 12-man roster of the USA basketball team. So the opening ceremonies are set for July 23rd, Joanna. And should they make it to the finals and it goes 7 games, the end date is July 22nd. And if it goes 7 games and the Suns are in it, Game 7 would end the day before he needs to be in Tokyo for the opening ceremony. So if that happens, he's got a whirlwind of a schedule. But regardless, it is an absolute honor. It's an absolute honor for Book to be on this team, the men's USA basketball team. That is so awesome.
It is. I am so happy for him. He more than deserves it. Has worked so much for this. I am so happy.
Yes. And it shines a really great positive light on the Phoenix Suns organization as well. Not just on Book, but on the organization as well. They're like, okay, so Devin Booker, Phoenix Suns, wow. He averaged 25, almost 26 points this season, 4.2 rebounds and 4.3 assists. Yeah, he's well-deserved that. He's worked his tail off over 6 years to get to this point.
So when I can't recall, this is not in my sports archive up here. Okay. When was the last time that the Phoenix Suns had, someone in their team go to the Olympics?
That's a good question.
Has it really been that long?
Let's go to the Google machine and see. That's a really good question. History of Suns players in the Olympics. Okay. 7 different men have suited up, as I can get the situation to come up. That would help. That's a really good question. Oh, it's a video. Oh, Dan Marley went in 1988. Let's see. Okay. Barkley went 92 and 96.
That's the last one I remember. Is Barkley.
I believe he was the last one, 92 and 96. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, J Kidd went in 2000.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yes, he did.
Yep. J Kidd went.
I could ever forget about J Kidd. Come on.
Oh, how can you forget about J Kidd? Oh, Amari went in 2004. Luke Longley went. Amari went in 2004 when they got a bronze medal.
That's right. He did go.
Yeah. Sean Marion went.
I know that was towards the end with the Phoenix, like towards his end with the Phoenix Suns. So I can't remember if that was the Suns or that was with the new team.
Yeah, Sean Marion was on that team as well.
Okay.
So Luis Scola. Luis Scola went in 2012. Wow. So it's been a history. Yes, that's good.
It's been a while. It's been a little less than 10 years that someone's been. Still, it still is a long time.
Yes. That's awesome. So awesome, though.
Awesome for
so proud of that young man.
So, but let's go ahead and head over to the East with the Eastern Conference. Right now, they are in the semifinals still. We are approaching Elimination Day. Today is Elimination Day between the Bucks and the Nets. And then we have tomorrow, just getting a little bit ahead of myself, we will come back to them in a moment, which is the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. That is Elimination Day would be tomorrow, Sunday afternoon. So, gosh, Ed, did you expect for the Eastern Conference to be this close?
Yes. I called Brooklyn winning this series in 7 games, and we'll see what happens tonight. But yeah, I knew this series was going to go 7 games. I didn't think it would play out the way it has with Kyrie having an ankle injury and James Harden coming back and being still trying to get his form back from a physical standpoint. But Harden played better in game 6 in Milwaukee. He had 16 points and he was a little bit more active in 40 minutes of action. But what James Harden are we going to see tonight in elimination game, in the winner go home game? We know KD is going to be there. Will we see? Will KD get another 49? Will he have to get 49 more points tonight, Joanna? 49 or more for Brooklyn to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals? It should be a great game because Milwaukee is going to come at it. Chris Middleton can go off for another 38 points tonight. Giannis is going to get his points. Drew Holiday he's going to go out and show and prove on the offensive and defensive end. But the question is, who's going to step up for Brooklyn? That's going to help KD. Is it going to be Jeff Green? Can Joe Harris come back and shoot much better than he has in this series? Somebody else other than KD is going to have to step up because the way that Brooklyn is playing right now, Milwaukee would love it. They'll say, okay, KD, you can go ahead and beat us all day, every day. But as long as somebody else doesn't step up, we're good.
Yeah, because we know that the game before, we had James Harden come back for the first time in a long time, and he was used more as a decoy. So that worked with the Brooklyn Nets because the Bucks didn't know what to expect. And of course, you typically have a player who's more than likely going to be at his 100%. We did see Harden struggle throughout that game, but it worked to the advantage of the Brooklyn Nets to have him out there. Now the Bucks know, okay, well, this is the situation. So they're not really going to fall for it. And yes, who's going to go out there and help KD? He's great. He's amazing. One of the best basketball players out there right now. But we've seen this time and time again, that one great player in your team cannot carry the entire team throughout a season, throughout the playoffs, or throughout a series. And throughout, yes, you can probably do it for a game, but more than that, it's very difficult. We've seen others try to do so, and it's not successful. And what happens? They get worn out. It becomes too much. So
right.
I'm just very curious to see, just as you are, who is going to be out there to support, to back KD, and hopefully the Brooklyn Nets coming out on top and going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I would not be surprised to see Milwaukee win tonight because they've won in Brooklyn, but I'm still going to stick with the Nets, even with them missing Kyrie, and we'll see what James Harden we get from a physical standpoint. I would think hopefully he's a little bit better physically and he's able to move a lot better than he was in game 5 and game 6. So hopefully we see him take another physical step tonight, Joe, and help out KD, because if Harden is there, he hit half of his threes in game 6, 3 of 6. He was 5 of 9. So his shooting volume went up. I'd like to see that volume go up some more in game 7 because they lose tonight. That's it. And There is no tomorrow if they lose tonight. That's out. That's it.
And that would be another number one going down should the Nets lose. And they are and have been marked the favorite to go to the finals. So I don't know what the odds are as of now, but they were just there. It was very, very close with those odds. I'm sorry, the number one team is Philadelphia 76ers. Do apologize about that.
Yeah. So Brooklyn, I guess according to Vegas Insider, they were like 11-4 odds to win the NBA Finals. The Suns were actually 5-2. How about that?
Yeah. So go ahead and diving a little bit deeper into this, and I'm bringing the topic of conversation, which you and I started to have, but we put a pin in it the other night, Ed, with the Nets, and being that the season is on the line, we will see what will happen later today as far as how their season will continue or not. But should it not continue, is this a complete failure if the Nets are eliminated from the playoffs and do not reach
Absolutely.
the final?
Yes. No question. When you have three of the best players to ever play this game, to ever lace up some shoes and dribble a basketball and make shots, and KD, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, if they do not make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, it is an absolute complete failure. The object of an NBA season of any of these major sports is to win a championship. And when you construct a team like the Brooklyn Nets have, and you bring in a future Hall of Famer in Blake Griffin, and at one point you had LaMarcus Aldridge before he decided to retire, another future Hall of Famer, you've got this kind of talent, and of course the expectations are going to be high, Joanna, that everyone thinks that they can win an NBA championship because of that talent level that they have. And if they don't make it, was it a success? No, it was not. It was an absolute failure. You're expected to go to the NBA Finals and win it based off the talent that you have. And if you don't make it to the NBA Finals, yes, it is an unmitigated disaster. It's a failure.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. I don't see it as a failure should the Nets not make it all the way to the finals. Are they expected to make it to the finals? Yes, of course. If every single team here in throughout the season or even in the playoffs and those that remain expected to make it to the finals, yes, of course. Yes, you do have these players, one of the best. You have the three best one of the best in the league in one team. But at the same time, this is your first year. Yes, you're going to have great players, but it's still a little bit of a learning situation there too. You have an entire new coaching staff. You have, bringing all these new pieces together. Yes, it would be amazing and a success should they go ahead and make it in their first year together to the NBA Finals. But if they don't make it, I don't consider it a complete disaster or a complete failure. A disappointment, yes, I do agree with being a disappointment. But just having it be a complete and utter failure, I do not. So with that being said, do we consider the LA Lakers being a complete failure with having LeBron and having AD and then not able to capitalize against the Suns and making it all the way to the finals? Do we think that Utah Jazz is a complete failure because of what happened there and the Clippers, taking the lead there and eliminating the Utah Jazz? Do we think that's a complete failure? Do we think that Portland is a complete failure there? So are all of these teams complete failures? In my opinion, no, it's disappointing, but that's my thought.
Okay. We agree to disagree. I think every single one of those teams you mentioned are failures. The main goal is to come out at the end of this season as world champions. And if you do not do that, you failed. How much more plain can I be, Joanna? If you do not win an NBA championship, the main goal of playing the game of basketball is to win a championship, just like football, baseball, and hockey, and every other major sport, soccer, whatever have you. I know you love soccer, so I'll throw that in there, and boxing as well. And I know you love boxing. So the main reason for two boxers to get together in a championship bout is to win the championship. And if you do not win it, do you consider that a success or a failure if the boxer that loses does not win that championship when he was one of the only two to step in that ring to fight for a championship? You don't consider that a failure? You don't think that he or she failed?
I think failure is a harsh word. It depends on which way you're looking at it. So, it seems like we probably have a little bit of different definitions as the word as a failure. So yes, it's not going to be a success. I agree with that, but a complete, failure, I don't think so. Yes, I'm gonna can't find the word for it right now. Yeah, definitely a disappointment, but not, a disastrous failure. No.
I disagree. You failed to accomplish the ultimate goal, which is to win a championship. To me, that is a failure. You have not done what you set out to do. You failed. You have not completed your mission. You did not win a championship. I.e., you have failed. Yeah, we do have different definitions on the word failure.
We do.
Yeah,
so,
it's okay.
For me, I consider more as a defeat,
and
than a failure. Yeah, failure. I think it's just more, way down at the bottom, hit, rock bottom, and it was just, complete catastrophe. Which, I will just go ahead and throw this out there right now, which a topic we will go on here in just a few moments. A failure that I consider right now, the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Oh yeah, that's a failure. That's catastrophic.
That is failure. Compare that to the Brooklyn Nets not making it to the finals. Not that I don't consider it that much. That being a failure in that aspect.
Okay, yeah, you're comparing apples to oranges with that, Joanna. Yeah, you're talking about a team that's lost 15 in a row, 23 straight on the road, and you're comparing that to a team that could potentially lose in Game 7 in a magnificent season they've had. I don't think those two go hand in hand, but if you want to compare the two.
At least for me, when you talk about failure, that's what I look as failure as.
Okay.
So, it would be this huge disappointment, a huge defeat on the Brooklyn Nets part, considering it as a definition of a failure or using that word in at least for me, I wouldn't, classify it as that, but we can go ahead and debate this topic, for a while, and we're still kind of not
we can cover the last 22 minutes of the show talking about failures and who are not a failure, but we've got more to move on and talk about.
Yes, definitely. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the Philadelphia 76ers with our beloved friend here, Keith Pompey, who we have been covering that series. And oh my gosh, I can only imagine how he's feeling at this moment with the series being tied 3-3 against Atlanta. So what do the Sixers need in order to go ahead and become victorious in tomorrow's game? Do the Sixers have what it takes?
Well, first of all, I'm sure Brother Pompey, he probably had some heart palpitations last night in Atlanta, especially when the lights went out last night after Trae Young hit that three-pointer. So much drama in Atlanta last night, and I know the brother's probably in the airport getting ready to fly back for Game 7. But oh my gosh, I think they have what it takes. If they bring that kind of defensive intensity, what they were able to do last night to hold off Atlanta and hold them to 99 points at home, I think they have a great shot of winning tomorrow night in Game 7 in Philadelphia. Atlanta, Trae Young says, it doesn't matter that we've won twice there already in this series. You go by a game-on-game basis, and we just have to get prepared for Game 7. Everything, the first 6 games means nothing right now. It all comes down to these final 48 minutes. Could be 48 minutes plus if they go to overtime. It all depends on what they do in Game 7. Can Trae Young step up like he did in Game 5 in Philadelphia when he scored 39 points and they came back from that 26-point deficit, Joanna? If I know you recall that, just like I recalled how the Sixers failed on that one. That was a failure. And then Game 4, when they had an 18-point lead and they lost, that was a failure. So this series, in all likelihood, should have already been over if the Sixers would have taken care of business, but they didn't. So now we're in Game 7. Yes, but Ben Simmons has got to step up. We know he's got some real issues with hitting free throws, and I think that's equated to his. I think that's really translated over to his game because he's not taking a lot of shots. I think his confidence is kind of shaky right now because he knows when they foul him, he goes to the line like, am I really going to make these shots? Am I going to go 0 for 2? Am I going to go 1 for 2? So that I think that's in his young mind that like, oh my gosh, I'm really a liability from a scoring standpoint. Defensively, he's one of the best in the league, but from an offensive standpoint, they know Hack a Ben is what Atlanta's going to do.
Yeah,
What do you think, Joe? What's your thoughts?
I did not think that this series would go as long as it has, going to Game 7. I gave this 5, maybe 6 at the most if it had to be.
Yeah, I gave it 6.
And just the Sixers just kind of fell, they fell apart. And one of the things you and I we were talking back and forth about this last night throughout the game, was one thing that I've noticed. So I watched Game 1, Sixers and the Hawks. Sixers lost. That was not good at all. I watched game, I believe 3. It was.
Yeah, Game 3 in Atlanta. Yes.
And then that's the one the Sixers lost. Yes, I believe.
Yes, because they were down 2-1.
Yes, I watched yesterday's game, and they lose.
I see the pattern here. Okay.
There is a pattern that I caught on to yesterday. I was like, wait a second. I'm going back, and I'm like, okay, so if I want the Sixers to win, which is actually because that's what I want to happen, I want to see the Sixers and the Nets Eastern Conference Finals. I'm convinced that, I'm the jinx for the Sixers.
Well, actually, Joe, the Sixers won Game 3, so you're not a jinx. You watched the game that they actually won because remember that's the game that they played the day before we talked to Brother Pompey. Remember that?
No, well, I missed that game. Then I know there were 3 games that I know I watched.
Okay.
And all 3 games, the Sixers lost. I thought it was Game 3. Maybe it wasn't Game 3.
You maybe I think you watched Game 4 because they lost that game.
Then it was Game 4. I know it was like 3 or 4. So and then now again yesterday, Game 6. So tomorrow I will not be watching the Sixers game. So
you might miss a classic, Joe.
I might, but you know what? That's why there's a thing called a DVR or cloud, depending on what you have for your network provider for cable and streaming services. I will be recording it and then going back and watching it because I'm not going to want to have the same thing that happened with the Nets and Katie's phenomenal out of this world performance because this gal totally forgot to put her record, that game on record.
Oh, the 49-point game that Katie had?
Be able to go ahead and watch the entire game there. But mark my words, I'm not watching any Sixers games going forward. So if the Sixers and the Nets do end up going head-to-head, I don't know how I'm going to handle that.
Oh, yeah. You think you're a wreck with the Clippers and the Suns. If it's Brooklyn and Milwaukee and Philadelphia, that should be something. But just look for Trae Young to have some fireworks tomorrow night in Philadelphia because that's what Trae does.
Yes.
As long as Trae is on the court, Atlanta is not out of a basketball game, as we've seen in Game 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think this game can go to either team, either one of them.
Yeah.
One does not have it easier than the other because we've seen the games. Each of these games have been very different. The games that you probably or I expected to have the Sixers win and have them be the dominating team, they haven't been so much. The Hawks have actually responded back to the Sixers and been like, no way.
Oh, yeah. Atlanta's no joke. Nate McMillan is a fantastic coach, and they've got talent there. They're a young basketball team. Philly's size has shown to be an issue for Atlanta. You throw out Tobias Harris and Embiid, of course, down in the middle, and then Seth Curry had a great night the other night, 6 3-pointers, and Ben Simmons, of course, one of the best defensive players in basketball. That's a really good team, and they're deep. with Tyrese Maxey coming off with 16 big points and Matisse Thybulle. If we had Keith on, he would run down the list of all the guys on the Sixers because he knows them better than we do, of course, because he covers the team. But that's a really good deep basketball team. And like we talked about earlier, they should not be in this situation, Joanna. They should have taken care of business in game 4 and 5, and we wouldn't even be talking about a game 7.
Yep.
But it is what it is.
It is. But you know who also it is what it is? Moving on to our next segment here.
Yeah.
Much as it pains me and hurts me to say this and even witness it much more.
You see my face?
Diamondbacks, catastrophic season, unfortunately. So they have now reached 15 straight losses, 23 straight losses on the road, which that marks a major league record going back since early 1900s, I believe. If my mind is correctly, I can't remember.
Early 1900s, yes.
So they are really, just, I don't know, just down at the bottom, like not the basement, just way below there.
Yeah, worst record in the league.
It's just really horrible, and those are not the Diamondbacks. They're not the Diamondbacks that I know that they can come out and play. And we'll go ahead and dive a little bit into that. But before we do so, Ed, will you go ahead and do me the favor of queuing up the video that we have from Torey Lovullo, manager for the Arizona Diamondbacks from yesterday's post-game media conference.
Yeah, I'm pissed. I don't like it. And we got to find a way out of it. We got to go out and execute and do the things we're supposed to do the way we know how to do them and get the job done and win a baseball game. That's it. I think we're all getting tired of it. The fans are getting tired of it. You guys are getting tired of it. It's time to find a way.
So how did they find their way back, Ed? It's been 15 straight losses. 23 on the road.
It has been the worst season ever for the Diamondbacks. I can't think of a season that's been worse than this. For them to lose 15 straight, and they got shut out last night by the Trevor Bauer and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Only 3 hits. Wow. One thing is, as I was doing some looking up some stats, I'm on MLB.com. I'm looking at their team pitching. That's one of the main reasons why they are where they are. They have the worst ERA as far as the pitching staff in all of baseball, Joanna. They are worst of all 30 teams in Major League Baseball, 5.34 ERA. And you want to know why the Padres, Dodgers, and Giants are where they are? Because of their team ERA. They're 2, 3, and 4. Padres number 2, Dodgers 3, Giants 4 with their ERA. Their pitching is outstanding. And to go along with that, all the injuries that the Diamondbacks have suffered this year, Joanna, in a number of different positions. They've been hurt all over the field. So when you can't field a consistent baseball team and your pitching is horrible and you can't hit the ball, they've got a 231 batting average. They're number 20 in Major League Baseball in hitting. You can't hit, you can't stop anybody from a pitching standpoint, and you're hurt all the time, and you've been shut out 9 times this season. All these factors come together to put you where you are right now, Joanna, which is 31 games under 500, the worst team in baseball right now. How do you think they can turn this thing around, or can they? And I feel bad for Torey because he's out there. He's doing everything he can. He's a great manager, but this is the kind of situation in the season he's been thrust into. And what can the man do?
In my honest opinion, no, they cannot turn this around. They can't. No. There's nothing that you can do. And it comes back time and time again to, in which what you just mentioned, Ed, the pitching.
Yes, ma'am.
They did not have the caliber pitching that they did when they went to the postseason. Ever since they went to the postseason, that was the last season that they actually had a caliber team. They've had a good team since then, but of that caliber, not so much.
Yes.
Corbin, He was a Diamondback. What happened? He went to the Nationals. We
Yes.
had our closer and who was amazing, and I loved him going out there and the energy he brought. And after that postseason, he 2017, he went. I forgot what team he went to. Is oh my gosh, his name escapes me right now. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to come back to that. But he was great and he delivered. But we had Greinke. He's shipped off to Houston Astros. So their pitching has been a topic on conversation time and time again. They have a farm system, which they also comes into trades, and they trade away Dansby Swanson, who was in their farm team. They traded him away to the Braves. There was a transaction there that led Dansby Swanson to the Braves. That was, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's not a good move. They just went down with that one. And look how great Dansby Swanson has been.
Joe, are you talking about Fernando Rodney?
Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah, he had 39 saves that year. He was really good that year in 17. Yes, he was.
So, and the list can go on and on and on. The Diamondbacks want to have a caliber team. They want to capitalize. They want to be, like a Dodgers, contend like the Dodgers. That's where you go ahead and grow from. You have your team grow from is your farm system.
Right.
Right now, they're just, that's something that they really don't have too solid right now, in my opinion.
So should this be a fire sale? Is it time to start moving guys and trying to get some capital to maybe help build that farm system up? When you're 31, you're completely out of it. There's no way you're coming back from this.
Yeah,
some hard decisions have to be made, Joanna, on who you keep and who you move on, and try to get something for the future.
Right now, we have the Diamondbacks at the bottom of the National League West with 20 wins. 20 wins. They have more losses than they do wins, 51 losses. Turn that around, up just about. A little bit of a difference there. 4 or 5 going each way for the San Francisco Giants, who have now taken the number 1 spot in the NL West, and they have been there for a little bit. They're 2.5 games ahead of the Dodgers, but they have 45 wins and 25 losses. What do the Diamondbacks have to do at this point? That's gonna they're gonna have to rebuild. Pretty much, you're in already not great, and that last season wasn't as bad, and you just maintained a 500. You just been maintaining a 500 level, 500 team. That's what they have been.
And that's not good enough in that division, Joe. That won't cut it. That won't cut it.
We have San Francisco Giants, LA Dodgers. We have them at over 600. San Diego is almost at 600. That's not enough. So at this point, there's going to have to be some shifting. There's going to be some moving. They've already let go 2 hitting coaches. Hazen has taken a step back due to his wife's health. Very unfortunate, to hear about that, and that battle continues.
We pray for her. Yes.
Wish him, his wife, nothing but well wishes, and that she does recover and from that. But that's also going to take some type of effect on the team with your GM not being there, being present, throughout the season or in those pivotal moments. Even yes, he's still involved in making decisions. But I don't know where it's really what they're gonna have to do. There's gonna have and for me, it's just gonna be a whole complete rebuild. Tori is great. He is a great manager. The pieces just have not fallen in, well for him.
Yes.
Or the Diamondbacks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Madison Bumgarner is a classic example. They paid the man $85 million over 5 years to come here because they thought he could resurrect what he did in San Francisco, Joe, and he hasn't. It's because of his health. He has not been healthy. He has not been near what he was in San Francisco when they won those championships.
Yeah.
That's just one part. That's a microcosm of what the Diamondbacks are right now.
One of the things that I will say that they do have to do, or actually not do, and which is what they have done with these pitchers and these players, like JD Martinez.
Yes. And I know how bitter you still are about them letting JD go. Although he did go to Boston, he went to your team, but still they lost JD.
I am happy we got him from the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
He came here, amazing, had a great season. He was, oh my gosh, out of this world. Then he gets, delivered to Boston, handed over. And yes, I'm happy. But when you have these type of caliber players, up and coming players, and they're great, keep them. Because that's also, yes, they're gonna want more money down the road on the long run. But it's gonna end up paying off because you're gonna have winning seasons.
Yes.
You're going to have that revenue come in. You're going to be able to afford those contracts.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have a lesser contract now. Build that player. Build a team. Like it was back with Goldschmidt. Peralta is, has been one of those players, and he's been with the team. I can't remember how many years now. I remember him coming up when he had his major league debut, and he's still with the team, and still how much of a presence that is in being a leader there. But having these players, having these pitchers like Corbin, he was great. He's great. He was probably not the best at times, but he's great. He's a great pitcher. And what happened? So those are the key. That's the key with the Diamondbacks, building their farm system, not trading away those, players that are going to be able to make a difference. You're going to be able to bring from the farm system up to the majors, and keeping those, those type of players. They're going to end up making a difference only because you can get more money for them, or you're trying to, keep their salary cap. They need to work on that too, because right now they're
miles apart. Yeah, they're miles apart from LA and San Diego. And to answer your question, Peralta's been here 8 years.
Thank you.
His entire career, yes.
So that's another thing, is the money situation and what kind of hasn't put into this place, because they bid a huge contract for Greinke, and they had to offset that. Now they did the same thing with Madison Bumgarner, but if you're not winning those games, you're not going to get that capital back.
No.
And that's where I will go ahead and leave it at. We are down to our last couple of minutes here in the show. And what is your final thought in 30 seconds before we sign off?
Final thoughts. Game 7 tonight, Game 7 tomorrow. I'm excited about those two games in the Eastern Conference. I'm so excited about tomorrow afternoon, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, Clippers and Suns. Let's get this thing going. Let's hope and pray that CP3 is ready to go for the Suns, and let's just hang with the Diamondbacks. It's a horrific season, but they are our hometown baseball team. We got to stick with them, ride or die with them. They need our support right now, even though things look absolutely bleak.
Yes. Indeed. Excited for tomorrow. Phoenix Suns, Clippers, Game 1. Let's rally the Valley.
Yes. Rally the Valley.
That one. My Diamondbacks, I'm still here with you. We'll ride along with you. It doesn't matter, good or bad. And I just, I hate to have these conversations, but sometimes, you just have to do it. I hate to go down, and give them some tough love, but we're in this together. But with that, Ed, go ahead and let our listeners know and viewers where they can go ahead and find you.
Of course, on Twitter at EdCole43, Instagram at EdwardCole301, Facebook Edward Cole, here on Inside Sports Talk, and on our brother PLR show, The Sports Cave.
Awesome stuff. You can find me, Joanna Rosali, on Instagram and Twitter at JRosalye. That's JROSALYE. And you can find Inside Sports Network on Instagram at Inside Sports Net, on Twitter at Inside Sports, with an extra S at the end. With that, thank you everyone for tuning in. This was Inside Sports Talk. Have a great weekend.